now to report in this morning's Washington Post that the Obama administration is considering implementing a new fall vaccination program against the flu, a plan that would require Americans to get not one, not two, but 3 flu shots. Dr. Nancy Snyderman is NBC's chief medical editor. Nancy, good morning.
Hi, Meredith.
Unprecedented this is. How would this work?
Well, here's the idea. On the first Saturday when we knew swine flu was an issue, the Centers for Disease Control held a conference, and we were already talking with those of us who listened in about how you're going to ramp up manufacturing this new vaccine on top of the old vaccine.
Because it takes a lot of time. It takes about 5 months or so.
And the decision was made, if we're going to get the normal flu vaccine to the general public in the fall, to hold it up while we figure out the swine flu was perhaps going to put the entire population at risk. So at that moment, the decision was made, we would go into normal flu production for the normal vaccine, like it is.
For seasonal flu.
Right, for seasonal flu. Figure out what the swine flu really is, and then perhaps tag team a second vaccine on top of it.
Okay, so that's why they didn't combine them into one shot, but why 2 additional shots for swine flu?
For the normal seasonal flu that you and I talk about every year, there's a herd immunity to some extent, so you only need 1 shot. The new strain we've never seen before, so that requires sort of thinking like when we give our babies or their first shot. You get your shot, it boosts up your immune system, and then you need a booster. So for the new H1N1 swine flu, for which there's no known immunity in our population, that requires 2 shots.
I would think, because it's hard to get people to take the original
as we know,
shot,
don't we? Since you don't get your flu shot in the fall.
No, I don't. Okay, fine.
Okay.
I might this year, though.
Good.
But now you're asking people to get 3. That's a tough sell.
Well, Meredith, I think you've hit the nail on the head. This is going to be a public relations, trust your government and your health officials public campaign. Mark my word, you and I are going to be talking about this a lot between now and fall. So I think what the government is likely going to do is urge people to early on get their normal flu shot and then trust the scientists to say the swine flu is for real, get these other 2. Now, we've yet to hear the clear, concise direction from the government, so I don't think we should jump on the bandwagon before we hear what the recommendation is. But if they do believe that this swine flu could be a real uptick in severity, you're going to see a massive public education campaign.
But we trusted the scientists back in 1976 with the original swine flu shot, and a lot of people
got sick. And it was a debacle.
Right.
Not only that, some people died, some people were paralyzed.
From the shot itself.
And people remember the swine flu vaccine as a terrible disaster. This government, these manufacturers want to make sure that does not happen again. But you bring up a very important point. Just because something works doesn't mean it's safe. And that rush to market is going to mean that we're going to have to prove that, yes, it will keep people from getting sick, and that the shot itself won't hurt anybody.
All right, Dr.
More on this, I'm sure, all summer and early fall.
Absolutely, Dr. Nancy Snyderman. Thank you so much.
I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
That's okay.
An investigative journalist from Washington, Wayne Madsen, says the outbreak of the virus is raising suspicion.
I spoke to 2 journalists, one from Mexico City and the other one from Jakarta, Indonesia. And of course, Indonesia had a problem not long ago with bird flu. Both these journalists have been in touch with UN and World Health Organization officials, including a scientist who's dealt with Ebola virus and HIV/AIDS in Africa. And it's their conclusion, these scientists who they've spoken to, that this is a very unusual form of flu because it looks like it is a product of some gene splicing. The flu contains elements of bird flu, 2 forms of human flu, and various forms of swine flu. To them, it doesn't look like this is naturally occurring. The other thing is the target for this flu, as opposed to other flus, it's not the very young and the very old, it's people between the ages of 20 and 45. And the other thing is people are not contracting this from pigs. The National Pork Council here in America says pigs are not being affected. This is human-to-human contact, so people who either eat pork or are exposed to pigs are not getting this flu. Very unusual, and of course the scientists are very alarmed by the way it's being spread and the speed at which it's being spread.
Got a doctor coming on, a medical doctor, about how vaccines over and over again end up causing the plagues they're supposedly meant to treat. This is on record, because that dovetails with a story that Paul Watson wrote. It's up on prisonplanet.com. Accidentally contamination of vaccine with live avian flu virus, virtually impossible. And it's all over the German, it's all over the Czech news, it's all over the Canadian news, Canadian Free Press, the Toronto Sun. Baxter product contained live flu virus. Had nothing to do with the regular flu vaccine with a spectrum of different viruses being prepared at different labs in Europe from the flu virus stock sent by the U.S. company. We've got it up on screen right now. We're live at prisonplanet.tv. And so, number one, it shouldn't have been mailed out to all these firms. Then they gave them instructions to mix it without telling them what it was with the other spectrum of regular flu viruses that are airborne and highly contagious with the deadly. But it's hard to catch. But if you can catch it, it only lives a few seconds in the air. Regular flu can live like 30 minutes or longer. If it recombines with this, which is what it would normally do, either in the live batch being made or once it got in the human body, it would just be a devastating plague. Now, what's so scary about this is that they then radiate all of these and send them out to sub-labs that are supposed to do tests. And a lab in Czechoslovakia, this one all over Europe, they give ferrets an injection of it, and if the ferret doesn't get sick, they know that the flu was prepared and isn't live, because they have a problem with it, not being damaged enough by the radiation to still be live flu, just the regular flu. But instead of the ferrets not getting sick like they were supposed to, or getting sick if it was regular flu vaccine and it hadn't been radiated right, they died. And so they tested what was in it and said, my God, this is the H5N1, the deadly bird flu. Again, hard to catch, but if you catch it, it kills people more than 60% of the time. Just deadly, deadly, deadly. So incredible accident after incredible accident after incredible accident. And a lot of scientists are quoted in the Czechoslovakian news, Czech Republic news, other papers saying, we think this could be a setup by the company to cause some outbreak, and then they are also developing separately an H5N1 vaccine, and this could be a money-making scam. It's not Alex Jones saying that, it's the news saying that. And Baxter's been involved before. We have links to that with Bayer that shipped out the live HIV and hepatitis in the Factor VIII blood product to millions.
So they really want to set the precedent to force things into our bodies. And again, just thank God we got folks like George Norrie out there fighting them.
Well, and you, Alex, you're the one who had it on your website. That's how I found out about it. So. It's not airborne yet, but it can be if they mixed it with the human strain. That's where the disaster could have been.
Exactly. They didn't just accidentally ship this out. That's one thing, and then to 18 locations. Then they had it on the ingredients list to mix up their regular vaccine in the mass doses, which thank God they tested on the ferrets, and it killed them.
A couple people who get on a plane who have this in their system, look out.
Exactly, but that's the issue. They didn't just accidentally ship it out. Then they ordered them to mix it with other live flu viruses, which is the one way, the most dangerous, most probable way to produce the mutagen, the mutated virus that would be highly contagious and airborne. It's hard to catch it, but if you catch it 60+% of the time, you're dead.
I haven't seen a statement from the head of the Centers for Disease Control jumping up and down saying we're sending a crew there. We're going to find out what happened. We're going to get a report. This should be a major story in Congress. And I guess because of the economy, it's been kicked under the rug.
Absolutely, George. And that was my final point. I'm glad you reminded me to make that. Look, we need sunshine on this. We need attention. This is nowhere. One tiny blurb in Bloomberg that didn't get into any detail.
Little story in New Scientist magazine. How many people read that?